In this video, we will continue to discover the 3D view and focus more about how to customize the 3D view and how to visualize the objects inside. So, first of all, everything about customization and visualization here will be on this section on the 3D view. So, let's say, for example, you have different kind of objects into your scene, and for example I will have a lot of meshes. So meshes is little objects like this, and I will add a lot of meshes, different objects like this, and I will have maybe some curves too. So let's say I would like an ups curve like this. I will put it here, and a curve circle here that I will put there. Okay, good. And now I have different kind of objects here, and you can see that you can just mask and make the objects visible just with the little eye here. So if I want to disable all of my meshes, I can disable it. Or if I want to disable only my curves, I can disable it too. And I can enable or disable the possibility to select them too. So let's say I want to not select my mesh and only my curves, it's possible here. So here you have the possibility to do with all the kinds of objects that you will have in Blender. For sure we will discover all of these objects during the training, but for now let's focus on visualization. And here you have the possibility, here it's really for these two here are really for customize the 3D view. So here you have the possibility to enable the gizmos or not. So the gizmos here for navigation here on the top, but into the active tools or the 3D or the active objects. So let's say I select my cube and I want into the move option, I will have a gizmo that appear here. If I want to enable it, I will just disable it like this, I guess. Yeah, normally it should work. Yeah, it should work. Yeah, if I remove all gizmos like that. Okay, so that's it for the possibility to use this. And here you have the, yeah, it's the object gizmos that give you this option here for move, rotate, and scale. Here you have the possibility to enable some objects into your here, and some options. For example, if you look at the point here, so you have just a lamp, and you can see here that I can tell the size or look at into the light or things like that, that will appear into our scene if I need. Okay, so for now, just remember that it will remove the gizmos or enable the gizmos. Here, we can make a lot of things. First of all, let's talk about the axis. You can enable the X, the Y or not. And it's good to let it by default like this. You have you know where is right and left, and at least with the x-axis, and after you can navigate into your scene. You have the possibility to enable the floor, okay, and the floor is the grid here that gives you the meters inside Blender. So let's say if I want, so here it will be 1 meter, 1 little square will be 1 meter. Okay, so you can say my cube here is 2 meter wide. Here you have the possibility to enable the 3D cursor in the center, the information, the annotations here if you want. You have the possibility to enable the wireframe. So if you want to see the wireframe of your object like this, to see well the geometry, it can be interesting. You can manage the opacity of this wireframe if you want. You have the face orientation, not really useful for what we want, and motion tracking, not really useful for now. So here, yeah, here we can keep everything by default. Everything will be okay with that. Nothing really to worry about during the training. you have the possibility to enable transparency. So if I can see, as you can see, my my sphere across my cube there, you have the possibility to enable the wireframe mode, okay? And the wireframe mode, the solid mode that we use by default, the, let's say, half render mode that will give you already some reflects on your objects and things like that. I will add a little Suzanne to see this a little more and put it there. Okay, so this mode, let's say it will be the half render mode, and here you have the full render mode, the real render mode. So if I move now my lamp, you can see directly the action of my lamp into my scene. Okay, each of these modes can be customized with this option. So especially the two in the middle here. So let's talk about this half render mode very quickly. It gives you the possibility to use a scene around and a kind of lighting around your objects that will have, as you can see, an effect if you choose a different one here. Okay, so if you take the studio here, so it's just a visualization on how your objects will look with this kind of ambience around. Okay, here let's go back to that one because we have a lot to talk about into that one. So into that one you can see the options are more consequent, and here you can use the studio, the matcap, or the flat. The studio by default gives you the possibility to simulate some lights like this into your objects. Okay, you can manage the orientation of the light if you want here, and you have the possibility to choose if the color of your material here, it's not really a material but of your object into your viewport, is from the material or from the object itself, or if you can choose a random, for example. A random will give you a random color on each object, so it's good sometimes when you have objects that cross each other. For example, I take this cube and I make Shift D here and Shift D again, so I will have a different color each time I duplicate my cube. Okay, and like that I can see what I will have into my scene. Okay, so I can use a single color, or that I can choose myself like this, and I can choose a texture too if needed, but we will not use this into the training. But I like to work and all of these settings here are available for matcaps as well. Matcaps gives you, for me, a very good visualization. As you can see, you have a lot of options into the matcaps. You can choose the one that suits you the best to see well the geometry of your objects like this. So it can be very useful to add a good matcap. For example, for sculpting, this one is very good. Like you can really see everything into the details that you will add on your objects after. Okay, so here the matcaps, and these options are the same. You can use the object color and the material color if needed. You can put here a specific color into each object by the material here, but we will talk about materials later. And the randomize here works exactly the same. And so for the studio and matcap, interesting one, and I really like to use this matcap is really awesome. So we can use it here for now. You have the possibility to manage the background. So if you choose the wall of the viewport or the viewport here, basically you will change the color of the background. If you want a darker background, for example, it can be better for better contrast, for example, let's say. You have the possibility here to use different options too. Like for example, The backface sculpting, we will not talk about it now. It will not be useful for our purpose. But the X-ray can be interesting. Okay, it's a kind of the same than this one, but with the possibility to slide it on. So with full like this, you will just have the outline of the object here, and if you remove the outline, you will have everything transparent and nothing will appear. Okay, so the X-ray can be interesting in some tasks that you want to see through your object like that. You can enable the shadow, and the shadow gives you a shadow. So if I add, let's say, a plane here and move it down and scale it, you can see the shadows that will appear into the shadows of my object that will appear there. And you have possibility to see to increase the shadow or not, and to manage the orientation of the shadow. Okay, so as you can see, it works pretty well, and that can be very useful to add some realism into your viewport like this. But don't enable it in really complex scenes, like if you work in sculpting mode, for example, in sculpt mode with a lot of vertices, it will take a lot of RAM into your computer, so take care of that one. Cavity too is an interesting one, with the type screen or world, but I really like screen. It gives you really the hard edges here, and will give you a kind of ambient occlusion with the valley here. If I increase the valley, you can see everything that will be darker on this valley. Okay, so it can be interesting to use Cavity too, especially for sculpting, can be very interesting. And the depth of field, we will not use it. It will not be useful for this training. We will use it in real with a real camera. And the outline, this one we keep it. We will keep it by default. If not, you will really have a flat a flat visualization. So I will remove it like that, and you can see now it's difficult to see who is who, but with the outline of the objects, it looks a little better. Okay, so that's it for the visualization here. Something that I didn't show you here. If you want let's say I come back to something more normal with my team here, and I will remove some, or I will just make a file new, general. Okay, and so here you can just enable or disable everything, and it will give you all the objects that will be rendered in your scene, but not the others. Like for example, the lamp will give some energy into my scene, but will not be rendered into my scene. Like for example, if I'm into the camera view and I put my lamp very near my cube, okay, you can see my lamp into my camera view. But if I make an F12, okay, I will just have the light and the effect of the light, but not the object light itself into the render. Okay, and sometimes it's good to work with only rendered objects. So it will remove everything. It will remove the grid here, it will remove the axis and all the stuff, and focus only into your objects. And it's a really good feature that you can use for sculpting. For example, you don't want to be disturbed with other objects into the scene or with the grid or whatever. You want to focus only into the geometry and manage your little sculpting everywhere. Okay, so you will use this kind of setting. And if you go into sculpting mode here, you can see that they did remove everything except this one. I really like to not focus on nothing else than this. Okay, so this is a good feature to use too. So that's it for the visualization and customize the 3D view. In the next video, we will have a look on configuration into the properties editor here.